Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this Wednesday. We're going to be talking Team USA beating South Sudan today, 103-86. Discuss really primarily Steph Curry's Olympic struggles thus far, which appear to be kind of, shot-based, related, which... if there's one dude I trust to turn around his jump shot, it's him. That in just a second. Also, carving up the context, it is Wednesday after all. We're going to talk Caleb Williams today. So unfortunately, not for the Bears, not for Caleb Williams, but unfortunately for us, the football-loving audience, we will not get to see Caleb Williams tomorrow at the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. But I did want to discuss him and to sort of his expectations coming into his rookie season. I'm hearing a lot of, he's going to kind of work his way into... I looked at some of the great rookie seasons, particularly in the last decade or so. I think he can eclipse all of them. I'll discuss that in about 15 to 20 minutes. Bryson's best 10 head coaches in the NFL. I can't believe, I don't think I've ever done a list like this before. Maybe I did like during COVID, but I don't remember a single segment that I did during the pandemic and when sports was non-existent from like mid-March to late July. Top 10 coach of the NFL, Bryce's best 10. That's in about 30 to 35 minutes. Then at the end of today's show, there was a heated exchange, which didn't appear to be much when it was all said and done, between Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets. But I'm here to tell you, there's something to it. That at the end of today's show. But first, Team USA wins yesterday, or rather wins today by a final score of 103-86 over South Sudan. They took care of business in a much more dominant fashion than they did when they played South Sudan in an exhibition game in which LeBron James had to literally save our behinds at the very end with a game-winning layup, and Anthony Davis with a great defensive stop on the other end to get the W for Team USA. So, a lot of different ways you could take this game. You could talk about the fact that LeBron James was fantastic once again. He gave you 12 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, was 5 for 9 for the field. Kevin Durant gave him a boost off the bench. How about this? 14 points on 5 shots. Kevin Durant has been one of the greatest, maybe the most historically efficient player in the history of the NBA. I mean, the guy last year, I think, had like a 55. It was either last year or the year before that, was like 55 from the field, 40 from 3, which is absolutely ridiculous. The guy's as great as they come, especially in Olympic play. Bam Adebayo led Team USA in scoring 18 and 7 off the bench. But to me, what I wanted to focus in on, a couple of things, is the two guys that struggled. One played, one did not. The guy that did play and did start, and we assume will continue to start, is my man Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, who had a rough shooting game from the field. 1 for 9 from the field, 0 for 6 from three-point range, only scored 3 points. He did have 4 assists for what that's worth, and he did cause a good number of gravity for the other guys in Team USA. But when it comes to Steph, and I got a text from, I'll just go and say it, my good buddy Barry Garrett Jr. I love Barry. Shout out to him. All Even podcast host, co-founded this very Grid Network. And he texted me, and I've seen some stuff on social media like, man, Steph looks old out there. I mean, you see LeBron's doing what he's doing, dunking on everybody's heads, and Kevin Durant scoring as effortlessly as ever. Anthony Davis putting out a great effort. Every game for the Team USA in the Olympics, he's been our best defensive player. And he got Derek White and Drew Holiday. And Steph's just not carrying his load right now. Now, Steph in the last game for Team USA only scored 11, but a lot of that's the fact that he was in foul trouble throughout, we kind of messed up his rhythm, was able to really get going, hit a good amount of his shots, was relatively efficient. Today, he was not. And I was thinking about this as I was watching the game. Okay, Steph's not playing well. But oftentimes when it comes to a guy shooting poorly from the field, you can't just judge it by the stat sheet. Watch the game. Was it a result of just flat out missing shots, or dang, he can't create much space right now? Like I was talking about that with Jason Tatum during the NBA Finals when Tatum up until Game 5 was horrible on the offensive end of the floor. Is Tatum's taking good shots, but he seems to be almost hesitant. A lot of, again, carving up the context in a few minutes on Caleb Williams, a lot of a stat sheet, a lot of a player's poor shooting percentage, context matters. And I think when it comes to Steph Curry, it comes down to the fact that he just missed shots. That, like, I would like to give you a more detailed basketball analysis of his performance today. He missed shots. He created space. He was able to get to the rim. There was one drive to the basket where he was just going for just a straight right-handed layup on the right side of the backboard and just blew it. He blew the layup. Had a couple of threes that were open. broke some guys down off the dribble, was creating plenty of space, not able to knock shots down. I will make a prediction for Team USA. So their next game is going to be on Saturday against, I think is it Puerto Rico is who Team USA plays in the next game. I think they play Puerto Rico on Saturday. Game tips off around 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. Yeah, Puerto Rico. I think who it is. I will make a prediction that Steph may not lead Team USA in scoring on Saturday. That very well may be Kevin Durant, maybe somebody like Bam showed up today, maybe Anthony Edwards, somebody like that. I think LeBron James, because we know, and this is why I actually predicted Steph would be the team leading scorer for Team USA heading into the Olympics. Right now, it looks like that's probably going to end up being KD or LeBron. Maybe Bam continues what he's doing. Is LeBron and Steph, I've talked about their relationship. It's been very, very fascinating to watch. So when Steph Curry is at Davidson and he is tearing up the 2008 tournament and he's upsetting, he's upset. I think it was Georgetown. He upset as balling. Davidson got to the Elite Eight, darn near beat Kansas, who went on to win the national championship. Is that LeBron is showing up to these games in Detroit. There were some games in Detroit that Steph played. LeBron's showing up. He's pumping his fist. He's cheering for this little skinny kid from Davidson. Like, who's Steph Curry? Well, LeBron knows who he is. And I think Steph said later on that he had signed a jersey, for Steph, and it's at his mom or dad's house. And so they built a nice relationship, and LeBron kind of was one of the great veteran players who welcomed Steph in the NBA when he was drafted in 2009 with the 7th overall pick. But we know Steph got really, really good really quickly, was winning league MVP back-to-back years, won unanimously in 2016. No player's ever done that. And LeBron had a very fascinating quote in 2016. He said, there's a difference between the guy who had the best season and the most valuable player, which was obviously a shot at Steph, and also y'all better not forget who I am, because at that point, that was prime, peak of his powers, LeBron James. And much to my chagrin, I love LeBron, think he's the greatest player ever, but much to my chagrin, the 2016 finals happened, and that wasn't even a particular close matchup when it comes to Steph Curry and LeBron James' performances. That's really the crowning achievement of LeBron's career and the low point of Steph's. And so there was kind of not really a beef. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a beef. We saw a beef in the rap game this summer. It wasn't that, but definitely tension. I think, and this is when I theorize that this kind of shifted, around 2021, when Klay Thompson was hurt, Kevin Durant had long been gone in Golden State, and the roster simply wasn't that good with the Warriors in the 2020-21 season. And Steph Curry leads the league in scoring, should have won league MVP. LeBron James goes to the media after the season. Steph Curry should be league MVP. But LeBron is watching. He sees Steph. He's like, wow, this guy's getting double-teamed, triple-team, quadruple-team, contrary to what Gilbert Arenas said, and is just going for 40 burgers and hitting 10 threes a game. Like, this guy's unbelievable. And LeBron's like, that reminds me a little bit what I used to do in Cleveland from time to time. The pre-Kyrie, after Kyrie got there, and he'd miss, and I'd have to carry the offensive load and just get us to the finish line in one piece. And I think LeBron saw that from Steph, like, oh, he can do that. Because LeBron might have, as great as he is, he might have doubted that. That's not that Steph was great. He knew that. But that Steph could carry a team deeper than it should go. And LeBron, 2021, after the regular season finale, goes to the press. Steph Curry should be league MVP. And frankly, I agree with him. With respect to Jokic, Steph should have won league MVP that year. And they've been cool ever since. I say all of that to say this. Who's to say LeBron's not like, let's get, I hesitate to say 30. He's actually number 4 on Team USA. Let's get number 4 going. That shooter over there, great shooter. Let's see if we can get him into the rhythm, get him going. Because again, I want to reiterate. If you I think there's some aggregator accounts on Twitter that's going to put Steph's shooting percentages and this and that and other just to generate clicks. I would actually prefer one of those accounts post the actual video of him missing the shots, because it really is just as simple as he's just missing shots. That's it. He's missing shots that he normally hits, on a pretty consistent basis. He's generating the space. He's breaking the guys down off the dribble. He's getting to the basket. He's just missing them. No other way around it. And so, and also too about Steph, and then we'll move to Joel Embiid. Also about Steph that's important is throughout his career, and I say this as a Warriors fan who watches every dribble of every game, it is almost a tale as old as time. If Steph shoots really poorly one game, like really poorly, like 1 for 9 is bad, 0 for 6 from 3 is bad, he tends to go crazy. Famously, Steph had a streak. It was like 270 something games without not hitting a three-pointer. So he had so many games in a row, he had like shattered the record for the most consecutive games in a row where he hits at least 1 3. There's a game in 2016, early season against the Lakers. That was when the Lakers were really bad, post-Kobe retirement, pre-LeBron's arrival. And Steph doesn't make a 3. He's terrible. And the very next game, the Golden State Warriors play the New Orleans Pelicans at home. And what does Steph Curry do? He breaks the record for most threes hit in a game at that point. Now, Clay broke the record 2 years later, but Steph hits 13 threes. This is what he's done historically over the course of his career. If he plays, I'm not saying has an off night. I mean, plays bad. I mean, today he got worked on the defensive end. He tends to go berserk in the next game. Now, he's not going to go for like 30, I doubt it, but because I see Steph Curry going for 20, 22 points, something similar to what Kevin Durant did. Not that type of efficiency, but just in terms of the points scored, yeah, I could. So that was kind of my takeaway is, considering how bad Steph was today, historically speaking, he tends to turn it around. Before I get to Embiid, let's go to the comments right here. John, come on. You know what? He's got every right to do it. He says, "Let's go Yankees." Anytime the Yankees are playing well, he's here to troll me and vice versa. We have that type of relationship. But listen, the Yankees are playing really good baseball right now. And now, do I expect that fall to be really, really hard and really, really painful come October? You better believe it. But listen, for the Yankees to put themselves in a position where they sweep the Philadelphia Phillies, who I think right now are the best team in the National League. And by the way, in Philadelphia, it's not bad. Not bad at all. And Aaron Judge is still awesome. Listen, I've never questioned Aaron Judge. I love it. I've always said, as a Red Sox fan, there's 2 Yankees that it's hard for me not to be fans of because I'm a Red Sox fan. Like, I actually genuinely like the players, like the dudes. Derek Jeter, Aaron Judge. Love both of them. Everybody else, screw them. Patrick Brown. Yep. Listen, Patrick's right in the comments, man. The heat has been, crazy across the country. I will say where I'm at, it has rained like crazy, here in Tennessee. And we needed it, by the way, because nobody likes like crunchy grass. Ugh, it's terrible. Let's go to Embiid, though. Embiid doesn't play in this game for Team USA. Only player to not suit up. See, last game, the story was Tatum didn't play, and also a side story, Halliburton didn't play. Well, both played today. Matter of fact, Tatum started and was pretty good on the defensive end, got some shots, from time to time. Joel Embiid only played for Team USA. He doesn't play. Now, again, folks may view me as the Embiid hater, and I will never give him credit for the fact that he's never gotten out of the second round, only league MVP in history to be able to say that. I find it fascinating because the Embiid defenders have already been coming out and said, hey, listen, Kerr didn't play Tatum against Serbia because Serbia is a big team. You're going to play your bigs. You want to have those dudes on the floor. Okay, that's a legitimate argument. I understand. By the way, I think there was some other stuff, maybe Kerr trying to motivate Tatum. Listen, Kerr learned from Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. The man knows what he's doing, especially when it comes to motivating players and putting together great lineups. Okay, well, today, Team USA plays South Sudan, who's a team, watch the game in its entirety. There's a lot of really athletic, young, talented wings. Not a lot of great big play. You need your defenders out there. That's why Steph Curry kind of struggled on the defensive end. Tatum was good. LeBron was good on the defensive end. Booker actually played pretty good defense. Book's an underrated defender for his position. Well, you're not going to play as many bigs, right? Well, yeah. Well, it's funny. I look at the stat sheet, and it says that Anthony Davis played 19 minutes. It says that Bam Adebayo played 21 minutes. You think you could have, split that in threes and Joel Embiid play, or you would think Embiid's better than Adebayo, and you would think, I'm starting to doubt this, better than Anthony Davis, and that he'd play after against Serbia and Jokic. He got worked by Jokic again in 11 minutes, went 2 for 5 from the field. Wasn't very good in that game. Again, this has been something I've been on for about a year that I feel like most folks are starting to finally catch up on is Can you really rely on Joel Embiid in the biggest high leverage moments? And his history says, no, you can't. Again, I'm not going to make it out like he's James Harden. Now, James Harden has been to a couple conference finals for what that's, or a few conference finals for what that's worth. But listen, Harden in the playoffs is probably the most notorious playoff choker we've ever seen. Embiid's not that. But again, as I don't want to relitigate it too badly, but again, 2019, I say to this day, I think that 2019, if you look at that NBA season, 18-19, the Warriors are the best roster because obviously KD was still there. Steph, Clay, Draymond in their prime. That was the last great Clay year. Best roster in the league, no question. I think Philadelphia was number 2. You had Embiid, Ben Simmons before he got scared to shoot, Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick. Like, that was a really, really solid Philadelphia squad that I thought top to bottom was better than Toronto. Now, the difference is Toronto had Kawhi Leonard, who went crazy in that series. We all remember the buzzer beater he hit in Game 7. Embiid disappeared down the stretch of Game 7, and I believe registered single-digit rebounds, if my memory serves me correctly. If you look at 2021, the Sixers get the 1 seed, take on the Trae Young-led Atlanta Hawks in the second round. And in a game where Trae Young, I think his shooting percentage, he was like 4 for 25. He was terrible in that game. They allow Kevin Huerter to go off, and Embiid disappears in the fourth quarter. 2023, they have a 3-2 lead on the Boston Celtics. And at home, by the way, in Game 6, Tatum is awful from the field the first 3 quarters, and they can't take advantage of that. Embiid isn't very good, and in Game 7, he fails to register double-digit rebounds. Oh, and by the way, this year in the playoffs against the New York Knicks in the fourth quarter, he averaged like 6 points, 1 point, 2 rebounds, if memory serves me correctly, 26% from the field and like 11% from three-point range. He disappeared in the fourth quarter. And the excuse I hear every single postseason for Embiid, well, he's hurt. Is he hurt now? Because I saw him against Jokic on Sunday and non-existent. Nowhere to be found. Saw him today. Literally didn't play. He was literally non-existent and nowhere to be found, except on the bench. So Steve Kerr, who, contrary to what some Gen Z Warriors fans think, knows a thing or two about basketball and certainly about starting lineups or lineups in general, rotations, he said Anthony Davis can make a better impact for us than Embiid, which we've seen what AD's done. Duh. And Bam can make a better impact for Team USA than Embiid, and Bam led Team USA in scoring. You know, it's something. The fact that he's going to stick with Steph through his struggles. The fact that with Tatum not playing on Sunday against Serbia, he's like, hey, not only will you play today, you'll be in the starting lineup. Derek White's playing pretty well, actually. Drew Holiday's been great in the defensive end. What's new? Funny, of the 12 guys, he even played Halliburton. Halliburton got minutes and hit some shots. 3 bigs on Team USA. And the odd man out today is Joel Embiid. I get that South Sudan doesn't have any bigs, or doesn't have many bigs really at all, so you're going to go with more of a wing-oriented lineup. That said, if you're going to play 2 bigs, wouldn't one in theory be a 2-time scoring champion and a league MVP, Joel Embiid? You'd think. I don't know. It's at least noteworthy. It's something. Speaking of what's something, more on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets at the end of the show, because I do think the exchange between him and Garrett Wilson, again, was something. But let's move on to carving up the context. So the Hall of Fame games tomorrow. So there's a game. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. It has no bearing on the standings. We know Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, Houston Texans, and the Chicago Bears. We got the news yesterday from Matt Eberflus that Caleb Williams is not going to play. So that was kind of a bummer for me. That was the only reason I was really interested to watch the game at all. It's a preseason game. Who cares? But I was thinking about Caleb today and rookie expectations. How's he going to play this year? And I think it is well within the cards that he has potentially the greatest rookie quarterback season ever. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But this is carving up the context. So as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, Mr. Primetime Deion Sanders says, give me my theme music. On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to be talking about Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick out of USC, quarterback of the Chicago Bears, who, let's put in perspective, the Bears have had a lot of issues at that position. I saw a stat, and it's been repeated on Twitter, on social media. the fact that the Bears have never in their franchise history had a quarterback go over 4,000 yards. And I'm not sure they've ever had a quarterback throw 30 touchdowns in a season. So just to show you, I mean, the people say the last great Bears quarterback was somebody named Sid Luckman. So we have to go like pre-Super Bowl era. We got to go to like the way back in the days where I'm not sure football's broadcast on television. Like this is way back in the day, or at least professional football wasn't. So I was thinking about Caleb Williams today, and there's some skepticism. Will he step in and bam, be great off the bat? I don't know if he'll necessarily be, holy cow, this guy's awesome off the bat. I think it's possible. Because, again, the one thing I've said about the Chicago Bears is that because I think they're a really strong contender to make the playoffs in the NFC. Super Bowl contender, no. I've heard some people flirt with that. I do not believe the Bears are a Super Bowl contender because I don't know if I trust Eberflus that much. But they're a strong contender to get to the playoffs for this reason. We see a team with the number one pick take a generationally talented quarterback once every 4 to 5 years or so. We saw the Jags do it with Trevor. We saw the Bengals do it with Burrow. We've seen bad teams do it before, but that's usually the number one pick. Bad teams. The Bears were not a bad team last year. They won 7 games. They were not a bad football team. They won games with Tyson Bagent at quarterback. You tell me they can't win games with Caleb Williams? And so I was thinking about that. The fact that they just made DJ Moore the highest paid player in Bears history, I think it was like $82 million. They paid him. They drafted Roma Dunze. They signed a good veteran in the room, Keenan Allen. They bolstered their defense over the course of the offseason. They've got a good tight end, Cole Kmet. They've added David Montgomery. So safe to say the Bears have been very active in the offseason. Cowboys can learn a thing or two from them. But there's skepticism of whether Caleb can be great. So I thought about this. Okay. Last 12 years, great. I picked 5 great rookie quarterback seasons, and all stats provided by our friends at StatMuse, all graphics provided by my man Alfred Parsard Jr. We could put up the stats. So from 2012 to last year, from Russell Wilson to CJ Stroud, 5 great rookie quarterback seasons. We can go and put up the list right here for you guys. Okay. So you see Russell's numbers, 26 tuds, 10 picks, 64% completion, 100 passer rating, and the Seahawks made the playoffs that year. Dak in 2016, again, most of these guys, their yards are going to blow you away other than Herbert and Stroud. But Dak, 23 touchdowns, 4 picks, completed almost 68% of his passes, and a passer rating darn near 105. And the Cowboys, of course, went 13-3. Baker Mayfield had a very impressive rookie season, broke the record at the time for touchdown passes in a season by a rookie. Took the Browns from 0-16 to like 6-10, which is a big tick up for that franchise. 6-7 record, not a terrible passer rating for a rookie. Justin Herbert came on the scene. It was like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. 4,300 yards, 31 tuds, 10 picks, 66% completion, 98 rating. The Chargers only went 6-9 in the games that he started, but you could see the special talent that he had the capability of being. And finally, you see CJ Stroud there, what we saw a year ago, for what we thought was a bad Texans team. Now this year, who knows what they could do. 4,100 yards, 23 tuds, 5 picks, only 5 picks, 63% completion, 100.8 passer rating, goes 9-6 in the games that he plays. And obviously the Texans not only go to the playoffs, but win a playoff game last year. So if we're going to look at kind of the median of those seasons. So in terms of yards, the median in that group is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield somewhere in between, 3,700 yards. I feel confident, again, all this health permitting, knock on wood, I feel very confident Caleb Williams goes over 3,700 yards. I think he becomes the first Bears quarterback in history to throw for 4,000 yards. The median for touchdown passes in this group is going to be Russell Wilson with 26. You tell me that Caleb Williams can't throw 26 touchdown passes with those weapons? Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. I've always been a DJ Moore guy. I've loved the kid since he was at Carolina. And the Bears, listen, we know now, fleeced the Panthers in that trade a year ago. Those are the weapons. He's got Cole Kmet. He's got a run game to take the pressure off him and put the defense in position to where they have to pay attention to the run game. So do I think Caleb can go over 26 touchdown passes? Absolutely. I feel very confident he goes over 4,000 yards. Or 3,700 in terms of the median of these 5 quarterback rookie seasons. I mean, you talk about interceptions. So the median there is going to be CJ Stroud, it looks like, or really Herbert and Russell tied with 10 interceptions in their rookie seasons. My guess is Caleb goes over that. My guess is Caleb out the gate is going to be a little reckless. Listen, we saw it at times with Mahomes. We still see it 6 years in, with Josh Allen being really, really reckless with the football. Again, I don't have an issue with picks. I'm fine if you throw 10, 12-ish a year, somewhere in that ballpark, just as long as you're giving me, because if you're going to be the bust with bad decisions, I need the boom with great decisions. Now, Mahomes is a freak. He doesn't throw as many picks as he used to, and he gives you a disproportionate amount of boom to bust. He's a transformative talent. What can I say? Completion percentage. So the median there would be Justin Herbert at 66%. Do I think he complete that many percent of his passes? I'm not sure, because I do think Chicago's going to throw a lot of deep balls, so that's going to be tough for him to get that percentage that high, but I think it's possible, but I'll say under there. Passer rating. So to mean there, only three of those rookies had a passer rating of 100. The median is Russell Wilson, right at 100. Can Caleb get that? I'm skeptical. I think Caleb will probably be about a 96-ish guy, which is still really good for a rookie. That goes in line with a guy like Justin Herbert, so you'll take that any day of the week. And as far as record, the median would be C.J. Stroud a year ago at 9-6. I think the Bears are a very strong contender, despite how brutal that division is, competing with the Detroit Lions, who I love. You guys know that. And the Green Bay Packers, who have a lot of young talent. It's going to be brutal, but Chicago's schedule is not that bad. If you look at the Bears, we don't have a graphic for you, but if you look at the Bears' first 10 games of the season, the NFL schedule makers did Caleb Williams a solid. They open at home against the rebuilding Titans. They go to Houston. That's going to be a tough one on Sunday Night Football. They go to the Colts, host the Rams. Those are two tough-ish games. They host the Panthers, Jacksonville in London. We know Jacksonville's a different monster in London. At the Commanders, I think they're better than Washington. At the Arizona Cardinals, I think they're better than Arizona. Home against the Patriots. Then the schedule gets a little tough, right? Home against the Packers, who historically own them. Vikings, division rival. At the Lions, division rival, who I think is a legit Super Bowl contender. At the Niners, at the Vikings, who is a playoff contender, or not playoff contender, but a division rival. Home against the Lions, home against the Seahawks, and then they finish at Lambeau against the Packers. So the back end of their schedule is kind of tough. You got some Niners, Green Bay, Detroit. You got some tough games in there. But the front half, you got some Arizonas, some New Englands, some Tennessees in there. So if you play well, if Caleb Williams is able to play relatively well in those first, 8 to 10 games or so, build momentum, build confidence. Sure, defensive coordinators will get film on him, and he'll have a couple of hiccups around Thanksgiving going into December. But I think by the end of the season, he'll be hitting his stride. And whether the Bears make the playoffs or not, he'll have a ton of momentum coming into 2025 in his sophomore season in the National Football League. So again, there was a lot of the thing with Caleb Williams that I find very fascinating is that, to me, the greatest on-field criticism of him is kind of a compliment. Is because I heard it with Andrew Luck. If you hear it with a lot of guys from time to time, is, man, he wants every play to be the greatest play ever. And that can be a bit, that can be hard to coach out. Hard to coach out of a player. We saw it with Luck. We're seeing it right now with Josh Allen. Carson Wentz was that way. Now, Carson Wentz didn't have close to the talent of Allen or of Andrew Luck, but you saw that at times with Wentz, just making god-awful decisions on the football field. Sam Darnold, if we're going to talk about draft busts, same thing. And so if that's the issue with Caleb Williams, I could see Shane Waldron being able to at least help coach that out of him. If Eberflus doesn't work, maybe you bring in, who knows, maybe Ben Johnson ends up a Chicago Bear head coach next season. I think that's well within the realm of possibility. Getting Caleb a smart, offensive-minded coach, I think would do wonders for him. It's that very reason that kind of holds me back from believing the Bears as a Super Bowl contender, because I don't particularly trust Eberflus in terms of getting Caleb to his full potential, which is why I think Caleb will eventually get a smart offensive coach in the future. But if you notice, again, outside of that, most of the criticism of Caleb doesn't have much to do with his on-field performance, and frankly, I find most of it to already be aging really poorly. Oh, the fingernails. He cried with his mother in the stands at USC after the loss to Washington. Let's clutch some pearls. Let's be taken aback. Let's be outraged. Hey, it's incentivized by Musk on social media and by others, by the way. I read a story today that Caleb Williams got on his Bears teammates for the fact that, hey, guys, locker room's kind of dirty. Maybe straighten this out a little bit. As a rookie, he's doing this. He's commanding the presence of a locker room as a rookie. He's seeing that the details, the little things matter. That tends to translate into being really, really, really detailed in every other facet of your life. Like I remember when, Colin Cowherd's talked about before, Dak Prescott picking up after himself when he, at his rookie year, when he threw a Gatorade plastic cup at the trash can, missed it, took the time to get up and put it in the trash can. It sounds small, it sounds ridiculous, but the reality is a lot of people don't put that type of attention into those little things. Like I remember watching Taylor Swift during when she first watched Travis Kelce at Arrowhead. It was a game the Chiefs were blowing out the Bears. It's not close in the fourth quarter, and she's cleaning up after everybody in the booth. I'm like, this is the biggest pop star on planet Earth, and she's cleaning after everybody else. The little things matter to Taylor. That's why she's successful. The little things matter to Dak. The little things apparently matter to Caleb Williams. So in terms of maturity, by the way, again, maturity, no off-field incidents. At the podium, he's great, and that matters. It does. Like, it's one of the things I've been critical of Josh Allen of. It's like, I love Josh. He seems like a really nice guy, and obviously we know the type of player he can be on his best days. Man, watching Josh Allen after a Bills loss is darn near depressing. It's like watching. It's like, gosh, I want to like cry for a little bit. Like I feel terrible for him. Like it's brutal to watch. And so Caleb's great at the podium. No off-field incidents. Commanding the presence of his teammates. Hey guys, let's straighten up the locker room. We're better than this. Come on. Oh, and by the way, on the field, I think he is as flawless of a talent as we've seen coming in the NFL in quite some time. So for this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, I see absolutely no reason why Caleb can't have the greatest rookie season in NFL quarterback history. In the last 12 years, have had most of the greatest rookie seasons. Russ, guys, Dak, Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert, and CJ Stroud most recently a year ago. I see absolutely no reason whatsoever he can't have a better output, especially not just with his talent, but the fact that he's going into as good of a situation as any number one pick has ever gone into in their history. So again, I don't think the Bears are Super Bowl contenders. They're not quite there yet. We got to see them at least make the playoffs first. But in terms of playoffs, yeah, I think they can do that. Especially with they almost got there. They were pushing a little bit with Justin Fields, who's not near the talent of a Caleb Williams. And listen, I say that as a Steelers fan. I'm pulling for Justin Fields, but that's the reality of it. So yeah, listen, I love the kid. This past NFL draft, I said Caleb's easily, far and away, not even remotely close, the best prospect. I thought that I love Michael Penix Jr. I know people crushed Atlanta for that pick. What are you doing? You just paid Kirk Cousins. And again, now listen, Atlanta doesn't develop quarterbacks like Green Bay because nobody develops quarterbacks like the Green Bay Packers do. But this feels like a situation you sit behind Kirk for a year and then come in next year, because I love everything about Michael Penix Jr. Maturity, again, that matters for a quarterback. Again, arm strength, accuracy. He's not as mobile as he used to be because of the injuries, but he can't. Listen, I don't think you need to be Lamar Jackson. You just would prefer not to be Jared Goff. And I think Goff's a very good. I have Goff as the 10th best quarterback in the league, but Goff is as reliant on great protection as any quarterback in football. They all are, but mostly him, because he is kind of the last of a dying breed, kind of a statuesque pocket passer. And Penix is not that. Penix can move from time to time, even post surgeries. And so I love Penix. I think he's going to be excellent. And I really like Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. I love his athleticism, his arm strength. In terms of, raw ability, I love what he brings to the table. I don't buy J.J. McCarthy at all. I love Kevin O'Connell. I think he'll get as much out of McCarthy as he can get. I do not buy the kid at all. Arm strength, accuracy, good intermediate, not great deep. And listen, we saw in college, very reliant on a running game. I've called him a poor man's Brock Purdy. That's who he reminds me of. Who else? Drake May. I've said this about Drake May. One of these two things is going to be true. I truly believe this. He's going to be amazing, or he's going to be god-awful. Like, I did see this, that Joe Milton, Go Vols, has outplayed Drake May in the last 6 practices. Now, there's an argument that says he should play better than Drake May because of the fact that, Joe Milton was in college for 6 years at Michigan and then at Tennessee. So he's far more experienced than Drake May, so you would think. But again, with Joe Milton, who love the guy, great dude, does a lot of great stuff in the community in Knoxville. But, as crazy of an arm talent, including Josh Allen, honest to God, that I've ever seen, but doesn't see the field particularly well and isn't horribly accurate. That's why he fell to the 6th round despite his arm talent. And so that's fascinating. And then who was the other guy that went? Bo Nix. I mean, he's with Sean Payton, so I certainly won't discount the fact that he could be really good. But size, I just, there's things I worry about with Bo Nix that, again, size, arm strength. And frankly, by the way, I thought more talent than Washington had last year, and Washington was stacked, but Penix outplayed Bo Nix both times that they played last year. And they're both older, starting college quarterbacks. So that's my evaluation of the 6 first-round QBs. All right. Transit, we're staying in football. So I couldn't believe, I looked back. I've never really done a comprehensive top 10 list ranking coaches in the National Football League. So I figured, today might as well. We're in just started training camp. There's some coaches in the hot seat. There's coaches I like that some don't, and vice versa. So let's go and get the background music on. This is Bryson's best 10, my top 10 coaches in the National Football League. You can go get the background music. Here we go. At number 10, the 10th best head coach in the National Football League. I've been skeptical about him for a while. He won me over last year. Is Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers is the 10th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. So, listen, this is a guy who, for the first 3 seasons of his career, won 13 games, 13 games, 13 games. Won a playoff game back-to-back years from 2019 and 2020. Got to back-to-back NFC title games. Larger to the shortcomings of Aaron Rodgers. Came up short. And particularly against the Bucs in 2020 in the fourth quarter of said NFC title games. Won 13 games in 2021, knocked out in round 2 by San Francisco, missed the playoffs a couple of years ago in Rodgers last year there. And I'm like, okay, is Rodgers declining or is LaFleur not that good? I tended to opt with the LaFleur's not that good of a play caller because I was skeptical because he had prime Aaron Rodgers. And as it turns out, now Rodgers kind of held Green Bay back in 2022 because we saw what Jordan Love did. Over the same, we talk about coaches being able to develop players at the highest level. Jordan Love went from being, I thought, clearly a below-average starter the first half of the season to statistically a top-5 quarterback. A lot of that's Jordan Love, seeing the game more over the course of the season. A lot of that's Matt LaFleur as well. And so give him credit, give the Packers credit. They go into Dallas, blow the doors off the Cowboys, and a coach of Mike McCarthy, who I like, don't love, did not have Dallas ready to play. Matt LaFleur had Green Bay running around like their hair was on fire. Matt LaFleur, the 10th best head coach in the NFL. You're welcome, Chloe. At number 9, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, it is Sean Payton. Sean Payton, the 9th best head coach in the National Football League, and here is why. So I will admit some of this is legacy based. Some of this is reputation based. The fact that he took over along with Drew Brees, obviously, a New Orleans Saints franchise that was in the depths of the NFL and a city who is in as dire straits as you can imagine post Hurricane Katrina. Sean Payton, Drew Brees, so many other of the Saints players really helped rebuild that community, end up winning a Super Bowl in the 2009 season over the Indianapolis Colts. So as recently, again, this is why I still buy Sean Payton as a great coach, is the fact that he has not had great quarterback play since 2018. 2019, Drew really faded off at the end of the year. 2020, he simply was not himself and went on to retire. 2018 was the last time that Sean Payton had great play out of the quarterback position out of Drew Brees. They made the NFC Championship game, and if not for one of the worst blown calls or no calls in NFL playoff history, they probably get to the Super Bowl that year. Think about his last year in New Orleans. They start 4 quarterbacks, and in a stacked NFC, they almost make the playoffs. You think about a year ago, after he took a year off coaching. Oh, Sean Payton's the issue with the Broncos. Really? Because if I remember correctly, Russell Wilson's career seemed to be going down the drain. And listen, without Sean Payton, are we sure Russell Wilson is on a roster today? Honest to God. Because some of it is the celebrity of Russ, of Sierra. Does that draw off teams? Potentially, maybe. Is Russell Wilson a Pittsburgh Steeler today if he doesn't have Sean Payton and throws 26 touchdown passes? And that's a pretty solid year. So I think, again, Bo Nix, I'm skeptical about him, but if there's one guy that can develop Bo Nix, who says it's not Sean Payton? So again, a lot of this is reputation-based. I understand that, and I fully acknowledge that, but when you develop this great of a history, by the way, when I talked about the Cowboys struggles to develop quarterbacks, I say about Tony Romo, you know why they developed him? Sean Payton was on the coaching staff. It helped. So Sean Payton, in my mind, the 9th best head coach in the National Football League. At number 8, he has not been in the NFL for 10 years, but I love him. He can coach my team anytime, any day of the week. It is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is the 8th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. The head coach of the LA Chargers. Here's why. So again, I talk about his resume. I talk about the fact that Stanford was, we talk about in the depths of your particular league, Stanford was in the depths of the Pac-10. He takes them over and develops Andrew Luck into being the first overall pick back in 2012, and Stanford rises into a very respectable power in that conference. They beat USC as like darn near 40-point underdogs. That was the Pete Carroll USC Chargers, who were stacked back in the day. Beats them. Goes to the San Francisco 49ers, who were irrelevant. Year 1 NFC Championship game. Year 2, if not for maybe a blown pass interference call or a missed pass interference call by the officials in that game, they may win that Super Bowl over the Baltimore Ravens in Super Bowl 47. The next year, they're literally the greatest play defensively in Seahawks history by Richard Sherman away from getting to another Super Bowl with, and respect to him, he was really talented to speak, but Colin Kaepernick was not among the 10 best quarterbacks in the league at that time from 2012 to 2013. They have a down year in 14. He's fired, goes to Michigan, and turns that program around from irrelevance into national champions 6 months ago. So when it comes to the ability to develop, to turn around, dying programs, dying organizations, it's that guy I trust. And by the way, he gets Justin Herbert. So I think I love what the Chargers did in the draft, especially when it comes to bringing in offensive linemen. He is recreating LA into his image. Is the receiving core limited? Yeah. They can maybe add somebody at the trade deadline. They can draft somebody. Maybe a free agent comes about that they can add their roster to bolster that core. I think the Chargers are a real threat to make the playoffs this year. And maybe next year, who knows? Listen, who am I to bet against Patrick Mahomes? Dare I say maybe a Super Bowl contender in 2025. Jim Harbaugh, the 8th best head coach in the National Football League. At number 7, it's the head coach of the Houston Texans. Came off a great rookie year, DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans, the 7th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. We give CJ Stroud a ton of credit for what he did in his rookie season. One of the great rookie campaigns we've seen from a quarterback. We got to give DeMeco Ryans credit as well. This was an organization, Houston, that was not just irrelevant, but kind of the joke of the league. You have the Deshaun Watson stuff. You have some maybe some questionable trades back in the day. Like, Houston was in a rough spot. Ownership was poor. They bring in some good executives who hired DeMeco Ryans, who was a great defensive coordinator in San Francisco, and really helps build a culture, builds an energetic football first culture with the Houston Texans. Did a fantastic job. Houston's defense was among one of the best in the NFL. He's going to continue to develop Will Anderson, I believe, into being a premier pass rusher in this league. Offensive coaches in Houston will continue to develop CJ Stroud. He's got a great staff. He's got great guys around him. Again, the coach's ability to build a great staff, to build a culture, that's kind of what we measured off of. And the fact that the Texans go from number 2 pick in the draft in 2022, or 23 rather, to, wait a second, a blowout playoff win over a very talented Cleveland Browns roster, pretty good. DeMeco Ryans, the 7th best head coach in the National Football League. The guy he beat is who's at number 6. At number 6, the head coach of those gosh darn Cleveland Browns. It is Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski, the 6th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. So I've been a defender of this guy for years. I think he's as good as they come. The fact that the Cleveland goes from last year, you go from Deshaun Watson to 2 other backup quarterbacks to, wait a minute, Joe Flacco off his couch. Last time we saw Joe Flacco at that point was the year prior with the Jets, and he looked like an old backup quarterback who couldn't really impact winning anymore. Steps foot in Cleveland, and it has folks, not myself, but folks thinking, hey, the Browns may be contenders in the AFC. Some folks, I remember back in the day, thought they were better than the darn Chiefs. Kevin Stefanski does that. Kevin Stefanski developed any quarter. Baker Mayfield's had some of his best seasons with Kevin Stefanski. Deshaun Watson, who I think has regressed tremendously over the last few years. Can he have a bounce back year with Kevin Stefanski? Sure he can, because he can develop anybody at that position. Again, the lack of depth, it's why I criticize the Jets. Well, their quarterback room was bad. Was it worse than Cleveland's? And old Joe Flacco, was it Dorian Thompson-Robinson? I mean, it was a really thin quarterback room in Cleveland. Got him to 11 wins in the playoffs. It was as impressive as a coaching job as I've ever seen in my life from an NFL coach. Kevin Stefanski is the 6th best head coach in the National Football League. We got one Harbaugh on the list. We're to put another one on the list. The head coach of the Baltimore Ravens at number 5. It is John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, the 5th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. So, this is the guy who took over the Baltimore Ravens back in, I believe it was 2008, 2009, coaches them to the Super Bowl in 2012, but then they kind of have some down years, some 9-win seasons where they failed to make the playoffs, and for a time there in 2018, does John Harbaugh get fired from the Ravens? They benched the aforementioned Joe Flacco, bring in Lamar Jackson, the rookie out of Louisville, and the Ravens haven't looked back when it comes to at least regular season success, where Lamar is one of the winningest quarterbacks in terms of percentage of all time. This is a guy who, again, sets a culture. John Harbaugh's a special teams guy from the Andy Reid coaching tree. This is a guy who develops special teams. Baltimore's got the best kicker in football in Justin Tucker. Baltimore always has great defenses, and Baltimore's always really, really good on the offensive side of the ball. That tells me that the guy can build great staffs, can put some good squads together. He's a big part of their organizational decisions when it comes to free agency and the draft. The fact Lamar Jackson goes from somewhat of a project pick to 2-time league MVP with 2 different offensive coordinators, not bad. John Harbaugh, 5th best head coach in the National Football League. At number 4, it's the boy genius. It is the head coach of the LA Rams, Sean McVay. Sean McVay, the 4th best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. Again, we talked about this with D'Amico Ryans, talked about this with other coaches in this list. When you talk about where the Rams were as a franchise prior to Sean McVay's arrival, I mean, as irrelevant as it gets. He takes over year 1 at what was, I think, a 3-4 win team in 2016. Goff looked like the biggest bust since Jamarcus Russell. 2017, Goff's great. 2018, Goff gets to a Super Bowl. Now, Goff ends up developing, goes to the Lions, has had some pretty good success there. But then you give Sean McVay, hey, we're going to give you a far more talented number 1 overall pick in Matthew Stafford, and they win the Super Bowl in year 1. And last year, what I thought might have been as impressive of a coaching job from him after almost retiring, after almost stepping down from the Rams, I guess to go into TV and play golf, the Rams hit on almost all of their draft picks. A lot of credit goes to Les Snead. And the Rams make the playoffs in what was a really, really good NFC a year ago. Puka Nacua is this revelation. They have a good running game with Kyron Williams. Offensive line plays much better than it did a year prior. Again, when it comes to, just getting the most out of his talent, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, building good staffs, a lot of his head coaches have gotten jobs. Kevin O'Connell, Raheem Morris. Sean McVay is as good as they come. Sean McVay, the 4th best head coach in the National Football League. At number 3, my man, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, the head coach of my Pittsburgh Steelers, is the 3rd best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. So the first thing folks are going to think when I have Mike Tomlin ranked this high is, well, he's had no losing seasons in his time in Pittsburgh. Over time, that stat has gotten a little bit annoying to me because that just tells me, hey, we don't suck. That, to me, doesn't need to be the crown jewel of Mike Tomlin. Obviously, he has a Super Bowl with Big Ben Roethlisberger. I believe it was Super Bowl 43 against the Arizona Cardinals. Was one of the greatest Super Bowls ever. And has gotten to another one, lost to the Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl 45. But what I find the most interesting and the most impressive about Mike Tomlin is not just the fact that he wins and won last year 10 games with what I thought was the single worst quarterback room in football. Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph was their best quarterback last year, and they win 10 games to make the playoffs in a stacked AFC. They're great. One thing that's impressive, too, about Mike Tomlin, they are as good as they come in the National Football League in terms of one-score games. Now, that tends to sort of correct itself the year following. We saw what happened with the Vikings last year, so that's kind of a cause for concern for my Steelers. But just in general, despite quarterback play, does Pittsburgh not just tend to close the close ones? TJ Watt makes a play, Alex Highsmith, one of the receivers, the run game that heats up in the fourth quarter. Listen, I think the guy's great. I think if he stays in Pittsburgh long enough, hang tight, coach. If he can get an elite quarterback, I think there's the words of Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the roof. The sky is the limit if you get Dak Prescott. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, give Mike Tomlin that defense, those weapons. Holy cow. Mike Tomlin, the 3rd best head coach in the National Football League. At number 2, I've defended him like crazy this offseason. I still think he's phenomenal. Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, the second best head coach in the National Football League, and here's why. So, again, we keep going back to this. Look at the 49ers before Kyle Shanahan took over. Okay, so they fired Jim Harbaugh, which they shouldn't have. 2015, it's Jim Tomsula. It was a disaster. 2016, they tried the Chip Kelly experiment. Chip Kelly was a great college coach. It was a bad NFL coach. That blew up too in 2016. 2017, Kyle Shanahan takes over. 49ers are 1-10 in their first 11 games. They trade for not Patrick Mahomes, not Drew Brees at the time or Tom Brady. No, they actually traded for Tom Brady's backup, Jimmy Garoppolo. They win 5 straight games. 2 years later, with Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, who's a bona fide backup now, they're a throw away from winning the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And what was, people blame Kyle for that game in 2019 against Kansas City. I get it. What I defend him by saying is that despite all of that, he draws up the perfect play. Deep ball to Emmanuel Sanders on a post route, and Jimmy G overthrows him to lose the Super Bowl. 2 years later, NFC title game with Garoppolo. 2 years later, NFC title game with Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback. Last year, and Purdy has improved tremendously, no question about it. Give him credit. But he's easily and objectively the weakest link on the 49ers offense, and it didn't matter. They still got to the Super Bowl. Listen, I'll say this to those who have called for Kyle Shanahan's job for a long time. It's going to be very Andy Reid-esque. If Kyle Shanahan gets fired by San Francisco, if the Niners disappoint this year, he'll be picked up in 5 minutes. He'll be one of the hottest head coaching candidates we've ever seen. People say Belichick's going to get a lot of interviews. I will bet money on it that if for some reason the Niners season goes awry, Shanahan loses his job, Shanahan will get more interviews than Belichick because the game today shifts more to what Kyle does than what Bill does. Kyle Shanahan, the second best head coach in the National Football League, and that leaves the obvious number one. Big Red himself. It is Andy Reid. Andy Reid, the best head coach in the NFL, and here's why. So, and listen, the guy has had sustained excellence over the course of the last 25 years, dating way back, obviously, when he started with the Philadelphia Eagles. They got to multiple conference championship games, got to the Super Bowl, lost to the Dynasty Patriots, comes to Kansas City, and they're losing these close playoff games. They blew a playoff game to the Colts, blew a big lead, and Alex Smith is good, just like Donovan McNabb was good, and then you hand him Patrick Mahomes, and it's the Chiefs are a dynasty. They've won 3 championships in the 6 years that Patrick Mahomes has been there. They've been to 4 Super Bowls, and their worst season in that stretch is home losses in the AFC Championship game in overtime to Burrow and to Brady. So, again, game planning, just creativity, the ability for Andy Reid and Mahomes as well to recognize the fact, man, our receiving core is really limited. We need to kind of put together an offense that is going to make their jobs as easy as possible, even if it's going to take away the big play, make us more of a methodical, sort of death by 1,000 cuts type of offense. We'll do that, and Andy Reid can adjust with the best of them. Andy Reid, I think it's pretty obvious, is the best coach in the National Football League. Let's go back over my list. Top 10 coaches before we move to our final segment. At number 10, it is Matt LaFleur. At number 9, Sean Payton. Number 8, Jim Harbaugh. Number 7, DeMeco Ryans. Number 6, Kevin Stefanski. At 5, it's John Harbaugh, followed by Sean McVay, Mike Tomlin, Kyle Shanahan, and Andy Reid. Love Andy. I mean, who does? Even when Andy Reid was losing, everybody loves Andy Reid. Everybody loves him. And I think it's so great that after all those brutal playoff exits over the years in Philadelphia and in Kansas City, that he's rewarded for his excellence as a coach by getting maybe the greatest quarterback talent of all time in Patrick Mahomes. Like it's unfair. One of the best offensive coaches of all time. I think he's one of the 5 greatest offensive coaches ever, with I think the second greatest quarterback ever in Mahomes. I mean, it's darn near unfair. You know, cancel the season. Why even compete with the Chiefs, right? Why do it? All right, final segment. A team that thinks they can compete with the Chiefs and obviously can't. New York Jets. So there was video that surfaced. We're not going to play it for you because it feels like a little bit of a waste of time. Is Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Jets, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the Jets, getting into it on the sideline. There was a disagreement. There was a second disagreement that got some play in Rodgers' defense. People kind of crushing Rodgers for it, and I've been critical of Aaron over the years, but that was more about Aaron trying to get Garrett Wilson out of an argument with the teammate. So I didn't really have I don't think that was much of a story. The first one, though, they according to sources with the Jets, practice was a little choppy. They weren't on the same page always. Listen, you're going to have training camp practices from time to time. Any coach will tell you this, where it's just not clicking. It could be your first or second padded practice. You're trying to get back into the rhythm of things. You can work out as much as you want in the offseason, but there's in shape and then there's football shape. And so that's for all 32 teams in the NFL, even the darn Chiefs are going to deal with that. What I find notable, and what I find, again, I'll use further data to prove the Jets are nowhere near a Super Bowl contender this season, is the fact that maybe, just maybe, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson would have a better, be more on simpatico, more simpatico as it pertains to their chemistry on the field if Aaron was there at mandatory minicamp like the other quarterbacks in the NFL were. And the last time a quarterback skipped mandatory minicamp was, you guessed it, Aaron Rodgers back in 2022 when he dealt with chemistry issues with his receivers. Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, it just wasn't clicking. And Aaron leaves, Love comes in, and those guys are balling out. When people talk about the Jets as they very well may be a playoff team. I don't know. I'm not discounting that in the slightest. Roster's solid. But to me, when it comes to success in the National Football League, yes, you got to have a great defense. Yes, you got to have a good roster, talents, and weapons, all that. A great offensive line, which the Jets, to their credit, did upgrade this offseason in the draft and in free agency. It's the fact that in today's NFL, 2024, I've said this for 3 years on Carving It Up, it's a quarterback's league. And I've sort of, what Kevin Stefanski did a year ago with Cleveland has made me sort of adjust that to, it's a quarterback / offensive play caller league, because there's a lot of talented quarterbacks in this league that just don't have that dude at play caller. I think Jalen Hurts is going to go through that this year with Kellen Moore. I don't think Kellen Moore's good. We saw what he did to Dak. We saw what he did to Herbert. I think he could do the same to Hurts. So Aaron Rodgers, the last time we saw him, we can go up with the stats and it feels, mean to keep putting this up over and over, but that's the reality. Last time Aaron Rodgers played a full season in 2022, 19th in the league in yards per game, 15th in touchdown and interception ratio. Aaron used to never throw picks, almost to his own detriment. 20th in completion percentage, 23rd in yards per pass, and 16th. Aaron Rodgers is like the king of passer rating. Right smack dab in the middle in terms of passer rating. And you see this little stat at the bottom, 0. Goose egg, 300-yard pass game since week 14, 2021. Aaron has not been elite in a while. Last healthy season was 2 years ago. Last 300-yard season was 3 seasons ago. Last playoff win was 4 seasons ago. Well, maybe things could turn around with Nathaniel Hackett, really? Nathaniel Hackett's the guy you think could turn it around. Again, I'll put up the stat here. Nathaniel Hackett, you see all the squads that he's been the OC or the head coach for, by and large, they've been awful on offense. The 2013 Bills, who he coached, all of these teams Hackett coached. 2013 Bills, 19th in offense. 2014 Bills, 26th. 2016 Jaguars, 23rd. 2017 Jaguars, they were 6th. So that was kind of an outlier year, and that's the year the Jags got to the AFC title game. But then they came back down to earth, and he got fired in the middle of the season. 2018 Jags, they're 27th in offense. Then you see 2019 through 21 Packers, 18th, 5th, 10th. But, of course, Hackett didn't call plays. Matt LaFleur did. 2022 Broncos, 21st. I'm shocked it wasn't lower. Last year's Jets, really bad. Second to last in the National Football League in terms of offense. So we have a solid decade of evidence that Nat Hackett isn't a very good offensive play caller at all. And we're all of a sudden going to make up this idea in our head. Hey, Rodgers, he hasn't been elite in like 3 years, but he's going to off an Achilles, by the way, at 40, about to be 41 years old in December, just turn into an elite quarterback all of a sudden. Then Nathaniel Hackett is going to figure out how to coach offense all of a sudden. I don't think Russell Wilson's great. I think he's a bottom half starter in the league, but Nathaniel Hackett had us thinking Russell Wilson was like we were having him, Hackett was having us question Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame status. Like, well, should we take him out? Does he have a spot in Canton? And I think this year we're going to have some games with the Jets where, because I've heard about their allegedly amazing defense. I think they have a very good defense, but if you look at the points per game that they've given up in their losses, it's like 25 points per game given up. And their L's this year, they've given up some 30 burgers to the Dolphins, to the Bills. Dallas dropped 30 on them. Like, their teams kind of carved up the Jets at times last year during losses. And so if the Jets defense isn't clicking any particular day, you're telling me the offense is going to pick it up? I'm sorry. I hear the thing, well, the Jets had the worst quarterback room ever, and the Steelers and Browns didn't. Difference is those guys have tremendous coaches. Saleh, love him. He's not a great coach. And Hackett's a horrible offensive coordinator. So, listen, I don't think this is going to be a year. I hate to say this to Jets fans because there's one of the most tortured fan bases in sports. I know some Jets fans. I love them. It's a great fan base. But just really do not get your hopes up that this is going to be the season that you think it could be, because this is the discount Aaron Rodgers. Remember, Aaron used to do the discount double check for State Farm? This is discount Aaron Rodgers. He's not that dude anymore. And Hackett has never been that dude ever in his career. All right. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live. We should be Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. If we're not live on Friday, we'll be live back on Monday. It just depends on what's going on at the time in the world of sports. So see when we see it Friday or Monday, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on. Right now we're on Facebook because Elon won't let you do lives if you're not verified. And on YouTube, Grid Network YouTube channel, Carving It Up YouTube channel. Also, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We are trying to get on the road to 5,000 subscribers. And so we can't do it without your help. So if you have not subscribed, hey, just takes a couple seconds. Hit that big red subscribe button down there and boom, you're part of the Carving Up family. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much. It means everything to me. It means everything to the people who are associated with Carving Up Live. Please tell your friends about the show, your family about it, everybody you know about it. Don't tell your sleeping cat. Nealon's been chill today. He's been in a good mood today. Will that change? He's moody. You never know. Love Nealon. Shout out to my little buddy there. Also, just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. You can find us at the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. And check out Patrick Brown's articles on the Grid Network website as well. All right. We will see you again. It depends on what's going on Friday. If we're not there on Friday, we'll be there on Monday. Listen, the next show we do is going to be in August. You know what August means? At the very end of the month, the very end of August. College football, baby. And not long after that, good old NFL, America's game, is upon us. Listen, there's a preseason game tomorrow. I may watch because guess what? It's football. I'm an American. Americans love football. I'm going to watch. Not before the Olympics, because the Olympics have been phenomenal. Katie Ledecky, holy cow. Simone Biles, holy cow. Both of the GOATs in their respective sports. Unbelievable. All right. See you on Friday or Monday. I'll give you an update which on social media by the time we get there. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. It doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. It's an issue that impacts every single one of us on a daily basis as American citizens. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem. Oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that requires a number of detailed, nuanced solutions to it. So let's do what we got to do and make sure that, we let our lawmakers know that we want to be safe in this country. And if they don't listen, hey, it's an election year. You can vote them out. So there you go. All right. See you on Friday or Monday. We'll see. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Of course, the Yankees are getting hot. Of course they are. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.